Today we'll be looking at poverty as a global, national and regional issue. With a mix of statistics, informed opinions and case studies, we're going to discuss the causes of poverty, its effects on children and families, the impact it has on schooling and education, as well as the measures put in place to help those struggling with poverty.
We tend to ask ourselves about why some countries are so much poorer than others, but looking at the World Development Report 2009, it discusses the importances of where a person chooses to live one day when considering a person's welfare. For example, in the World Report 2009, it speaks about an average American born in the United States will most likely earn 100 times more than what a Zambian would earn. Not only this, but there is a higher life expectancy for someone who lives in the United States. This entails that where you are born has a major impact on what your welfare will be. There are other causes to poverty in a country such as culture, population, leaderships, and policies and institutions, which Wisor 2016 also agrees with and further discusses on how these factors contribute to goals set by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and their first goal, called Goal 1, is working towards a decline in poverty. By 2030, they want to achieve a target of 3% of people living in poverty in the world. On their World Clock, which provides a real-time poverty estimate which monitors progress against extreme poverty, it currently stands at 7.8% of the world's population still lives in extreme poverty. The progress of Goal 1 in 2019 states that the decline of global poverty is currently still occurring, however, it has slowed down. This does indicate that they will not reach their target of less than 3%.
Studies by Roundtree demonstrate the historical view of poverty within the UK. Previously, poverty was categorised into primary and secondary level. Primary poverty referring to those living below the poverty line, while secondary defines those who earn just enough to survive, not live. Roundtree identified low wages as the main cause of poverty within the United Kingdom, which challenged the belief that poverty is the individual's doing, not a societal problem. However, in today's modern climate, poverty is used as an umbrella term to describe those who fall below the minimum level of basic needs, including access to shelter, food, water, sanitation facilities, healthcare and education. Earlier this year, the World Bank Organisation divided the term poverty into three categories of common usage: absolute poverty, relative poverty and social exclusion. Absolute poverty refers to the lack of sufficient resources an individual has access to, causing a negative impact on their overall physical and mental well-being. Relative poverty denotes the average poverty line for a specific society at a given time. The third strand of poverty, social exclusion, is a new term used by the government. This refers to the negative effects poverty can have on individuals' quality of life and social acceptance. For example, factors such as unemployment, high crime environments, poor education and poor sanitary conditions can create hostile dynamic between these in poverty and those in the wealthier sector. This is supported by the House of Commons Scottish Affairs Committee 2014 report.
51,365 children live in poverty throughout Kent as of February 2019, according to Kent County Council. Now that's a shocking statistic, and according to the Income Deprivation Affecting Children Index, the IDACI, the highest rate of children living in poverty is in Sheerness and Swale, with 59%, and that's in the top 10% of the most deprived areas in the country. To get to the borough as well is just about a 20-minute drive from Canterbury Christchurch University. It's an issue on our doorstep and will likely be visible in our classrooms as teachers. The House of Lords recently discussed the regeneration of seaside towns in a 2-year review from 2017 to 2019, which is a relatively unknown but very important report for all people living in these areas. It quotes Agarwal et al. And states tourism has in some coastal communities been a poison chalice, because the unskilled and low-paid seasonal nature of employment in the sector has fashioned a major societal issue of poverty and deprivation. This then shifts blame away from the families living there and the lack of jobs for families, but rather their willingness to work hasn't been wholly utilised by business. And with the decline in one particular market, it's shown to the county just how vital tourism was to these areas. Now, over the last few decades, we have watched the seaside towns in Kent crumble from the beacons of tourism they once were. Data extracted from the IMD, which is the Index of Multiple Deprivation, which shows relative deprivation of small areas across England, shows that 17 of the top 20 most deprived areas in Kent are in coastal areas. This is becoming a major cultural issue, as incentives introduced by the Home Office encourage refugee families to work in coastal areas to help improve economic growth. However, If the children of these families are EAL, which is likely, then extra resources are required to support them, and these schools are already having their budgets stretched. When we also consider that 11.9% of children aged under 18 in Kent live in out-of-work benefit households, and 5.1% of households in Kent have no working adult and dependent children, it becomes clear that socio-cultural divides in this county are a large issue.
The class divide is massive and can be seen on a very small journey on the train into London. This is backed up by statistics from the Trust for London that 27% of Londoners live in poverty. This is a startling figure, considering London is one of the richest cities in the world. This 27% isn't bad as it seems, as there's been an all-time low in workless households. This figure is also taking into account the cost of living in London. So you could argue that if they were living elsewhere, they might not be living in poverty. But what does this mean for the children's education? With 700,000 children living in poverty, it puts a lot of pressure on the local council to provide free school meals and other resources. Home life will affect every child, and this differs from child to child. So a standard teaching method for people in high deprivation areas is not at all possible. Michigan State University joined forces with the SSAT, which is the leaders of education in deprived areas. So they come to London to try and change the style of education for pupils to come in and build strong foundations for the future, which otherwise they might not have at home. They found one of the best ways to teach these children was through effective leadership with the focus on the results of the pupils, but have a strong caring culture with the correct facilities to support them. Joseph Murphy calls this a culture of academic press and student support. For the children from deprived areas, this means the school feels safe, caring and supportive.
Children face many challenges within the classroom as a direct result of child poverty. The main challenges include language and communication needs, attendance, social and emotional issues and school readiness. As well as these physical and emotional challenges, research also suggests that growing up in poverty has a detrimental effect on an individual's educational choices. Statistics show that by Key Stage 4 there is a 28% gap in the number of pupils achieving at least 5 A-star to C GCSE grades between those receiving free school meals and those in the wealthier sector. Physical activity has also been found to be a key factor in aiding an individual's educational choices. Research has suggested that those living in poverty are more likely to have lower levels of physical fitness. School poses many challenges for all children, however this research highlights just a few additional challenges children living within poverty face daily. This poses the question, what can schools do in order to make a classroom a safe and welcoming environment for those children living in poverty, for whom school is the only form of stability in their lives? There is no straightforward answer to this, rather it is down to a specific school to create strategies that work. Although many schools follow a similar scheme, including strategies such as a committed body of staff, a coordinated safeguarding and welfare approach, meaning a range of staff members are trained and deploy pupil-specific strategies and resources. The pupil premium strategy is also used in schools across the country, providing schools with a cash pot. This money is put towards a host of areas with the aim to integrate those children living in poverty, providing the best quality teaching and learning for all. The money is often put towards areas such as providing learning opportunities for all pupils, for example school trips. It is also invested in developing teaching strategies, for example TA booster sessions and specialised teachers. If each class teacher made just a couple of changes in their classroom, a child living in poverty could have a completely different view on their whole schooling experience, making a positive outlook for education in the future. Although some have suggested that with the pressures of school and timetables, teachers don't have the resources or the time to make specific changes for each individual child.
In my opinion, I believe we need to do something about impact on our future teaching practices. In my future classroom, I will strive to be a good role model and also set high expectations within the class. I'm going to give the students in my future class opportunities to set goals for them to achieve. I will help guide them to achieve their goals and remind them how well they are doing and what a great achievement they have accomplished. I also will be more aware that some students' circumstances may enable them to not have certain experiences. Therefore, it is my duty as a teacher to help them see what the world has to offer. As an example, I could teach the students about all their different career opportunities and even perhaps bring in a career professional to speak to them.
The current government give out over 800,000 free school meals and support families with housing and tax breaks. Schools that have pupil premium students get £600 to help provide extra support so they don't lose out based on their background.
As of today, looking at the World Poverty Chart, it has the number of people living in poverty and how people are escaping it. So today, 29,940 people have currently escaped, whereas only 9,529 people have fallen into poverty, which is a good thing because there are more people escaping poverty currently. So 1.7 is the target escape rate people per second, whereas at the current escape rate is 0.5.
Poverty. Let's stamp it out!